Hello and welcome. I'm Anand Naidu filling in for Riz Khan. It's been called Africa's World War. The ongoing conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo is the deadliest since World War II and has killed more than 5 million people. It's also seen the widespread use of rape as a weapon of war. The war, fought mainly between rival militias in eastern Congo, has involved 9 African nations and directly affected the lives of 50 million Congolese, leaving countless people homeless. Worse still, rape has become drastically worse since the January deployment of tens of thousands of poorly trained, poorly paid Congolese soldiers. Visiting U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton says the U.S. is committed to ending rape. She announced a $17 million plan to assist survivors of sexual violence, but there are doubts whether that will alleviate the crisis. On today's show, we ask, what is the solution to the war in the Democratic Republic of Congo? Remember, you can join our conversation with your questions and comments. Log on to livestation.com/AJE, enter the chat room and then take part. We, of course, also welcome your phone calls on this show. Joining me to discuss the issue from Raleigh, North Carolina, Kambale Musavuli, a Congolese activist and the student coordinator and spokesperson for the Friends of Congo. He's written extensively on the subject. From San Francisco, Mwade Mukenge, Regional Director for Sub-Saharan Africa at the Global Fund for Women. She's worked to increase support in the areas of conflict prevention, economic policy, advocacy and empowerment of rural women. She is originally from the Democratic Republic of Congo. And with me in the studio here is Amira Woods, Co-Director of Foreign Policy in Focus at the Institute for Policy Studies. Welcome to all of you to the show.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mwade Mukenge, let me start with you. When we look at these figures, 200,000 women and girls raped in the last 12 years, 15,000 alone this year. It's staggering figures. How and why has this gone on for so long and with such impunity?
It's extremely staggering, and according to the documentation that we have from women's rights groups on the ground, the number is actually double that. So we're talking about 500,000 women. And this has gone on for so long because Congo is rich in natural resources. And so it has to be understood that this is a resource war. It's a resource war where the riches of the Congo are actually supplying a multitude of companies, meaning a multitude of continents, with the resources needed for electronics and for aviation. And so we have to really examine the supply chains and make sure that they're not causing atrocities. And we are horrified by the fact that 6 million people have lost their lives over the last 12 years. And so we need to look at the root causes. I think it's important that Secretary Clinton made this trip and that she was able to talk to victims of the sexual violence, but we also need to look at the root causes and what kind of pressure the U.S. government can exert on its partners to make sure that we address disarmament, because it's definitely making a difference that weapons are being used to intimidate communities and to intimidate women and ultimately to rape them. And we also have to look at the issue of the responsibility of the corporations in the region. And so we hope the U.S. government would extend its commitment by exerting pressure on these companies.
Amira Woods, when we look at this, in a sense, is it the reemergence of some kind of economic superpower rivalry that is driving this violence in Congo?
Well, there is very much a quest for Africa's resources. It isn't only the Congo, but Africa is now being looked to by much of the world. The United States, China, Russia, India, all have had very high-profile visits to Africa, primarily because of the strategic resources that are now being found on the continent. Let's remember, it's 80% of the world's supply of coltan, without which you cannot make cell phones and computers and Game Boys, right? 80% of the world's supply is found in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Similarly, 80% of the world's supply of cobalt, without which you cannot make the lithium batteries of your hybrid cars. So what is needed as a key resource for the economies now and into the future is now being found in Africa. And so there is almost a scramble going on, a new scramble for Africa, we can call it, because of these vital strategic resources.
And that brings us, to one of the tragedies of this war. Kambale Musavuli, let me put this to you. The Democratic Republic of Congo has been at war in various guises for the last 12 years, even more than 12 years, with Uganda and Rwanda backing rebels trying to overthrow the Congolese president. When and how did rape become a weapon of war that is being used so extensively and so brutally in this region?
The rape has been used since the beginning of the war, and as my colleagues have mentioned already, that this has been a tool that has been used in wars toward the world. When you look at Algeria with the Algerian Revolution, you see that. When you look at Liberia, you see the same thing as well, as well as in Kosovo. This has been a strategy, definitely, to put fear inside the communities, to intimidate the population, and for a mass displacement. Just remember, where those people live is where the minerals are located. Those are areas rich of minerals. The cheapest way to displace mass population is by instilling fear inside the community by brutal rapes, and those are just the effect of what my colleagues have mentioned as the scramble for Congo's mineral resources, which has been at the root for 125 years. Remember, Leopold II, under his rule, 10 to 15 million people died because of rubber and ivory tusk that was being exploited. Now, under Belgian rule, the uranium that was used for the Hiroshima and Nagasaki came from the Congo through the Belgian colonialism. In the 60s, right after that, with Mobutu in power in the Congo, we saw the support that was given to a dictator backed by the United States for 32 years because he gave unfettered access to the resources of the Congo that was essential, as the Congressional Budget Office says, to the aeronautic and military industry of the United States. Now, with nearly 6 million people dead, it is critical that people understand this is caused simply for the resources that is used in our cell phone, laptop, DVD players, but it will take regular people to end it. And we are looking at Hillary being in Congo right now to assert U.S. policies clearly, where the United States will put pressure on Rwanda and Uganda, those two negative forces inside Congo, support pro-democracy forces inside Congo and local institutions, and the militarization of Central Africa by providing weapons that go to Rwanda and Uganda. It found its way inside of Congo. And with those assertions, we can see a lasting peace in Congo. $70 million for rape-related issues will provide immediate need, but it's not a last solution to end the conflict in the Congo.
Mwada Bukenge, as you've pointed out, this is a war over resources, and as we've heard Amira Woods tell us, that there are minerals in Congo which are needed by the great economic powers, the United States, China, India, Europe, that are needed from Congo. So when one looks at possible and all solutions to what is happening in Congo right now, do countries like the United States, China, and the countries of Western Europe, have they become really part of the problem rather than the solution?
I think so. I think that by addressing the end result or one of the symptoms of the conflict, which is sexual violence, then we forget to really examine where our minerals come from. And it would really take some concerted effort for all of us to look at our supply chains. And this is where the U.S. can take leadership. And there is an initiative for our companies to actually examine and have a code of conduct with regards to where they get their minerals from. It's not enough to say that it's not me that's doing it, that it's 5 layers removed. We need to go all the way down to those bottom layers. And what we are hearing from women is that even if they get support and counseling and surgeries for the extreme atrocities they've gone through, when they go back to their villages, the armed groups are still there. The armed groups are still there, they're still intimidating people, and the guns are still there. So as long as the guns are there, as long as the region continues to be over-militarized, we're going to see this conflict continue. And so we need to see the leadership of the U.S. on demilitarization, on corporate responsibility, as well as supporting the local human rights movements in the Congo, and also support in reforming the judiciary. One of the ways that women can get redress for the atrocities and the violations that they've experienced is to actually count on a legal system that works. And so we need also support with regards to reinforcing the legal system, making sure that women can get the assistance that they need, and that they have the resources to do so, because right now it's a very complicated process and most women cannot get the legal support that they need to actually bring the perpetrators to justice.
Well, we have lots more to talk about, but we are going to take a short break right now. More of our discussion with our guests in a moment. As we pause, let me remind you that you can join the conversation with your questions and comments by logging on to livestation.com and entering the chat room. You can see the debate taking place there right now. We'll be right back.